It has been a much better week for Oklahoma State football than it has been for Baylor. That's already a disappointment. But the Cowboys hired their new coach, Eric Morris from North Texas. And when I saw that news, a part of me died a little bit because if I had to have made a choice on who the next Baylor coach should be during this coaching cycle, Eric Morris would have been my pick. We didn't even get the chance to really dive deep into names, do a short list, any of that. But Eric Morris would have been my guy. At UNT, he now has the number one offense in the country. They average over 500 yards per game. They've scored 50 points or more 6 times this season. Big check to begin with. We know that Baylor fans are going to want or would have wanted an offensive guy. I think that's what we're looking for in our next coach. And that's probably, a bit rash because Dave Aranda was the defensive guy and it just didn't work out. Doesn't mean a defensive guy can't work out. But when you look at Baylor's recent success in the 2010s, they were led by offense. And that is a way to get back in the Big 12 championship discussion, is to play good offense. Obviously, as you see from Texas Tech, and, Kansas State of a few years ago, and Arizona State last year, you need to have a good defense to go with it. But you can be competitive in this conference by having a great offense. And that is what Eric Morris will be bringing to Stillwater and not to Waco. The second thing that I think you would look for is a program builder. Eric Morris is certainly that, okay? He is definitely that. He takes the Incarnate Word job in 2017 and just instantly takes them to the FCS playoffs for the first time ever. A share of the conference title for the first time ever. Incarnate Word. He took a future number 1 overall draft pick at quarterback and had him playing at Incarnate Word. You think the guy's got an eye for talent? I'd say. Not just having the number 1 offense in the country at North Texas, but having a future number 1 pick in the NFL draft at Incarnate Word, and then taking him with him to Washington State in Cam Ward. Yeah, he has been around some pretty good quarterbacks in his time. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Cam Ward, Drew Mestemaker. He has been around quite a few very talented quarterbacks who have learned under the tutelage of Eric Morris. He is the constant in those. And he's got Texas ties, man. He knows this conference. He knows this state. Big time. Obviously, coaching at Incarnate Word and at North Texas, playing at Texas Tech, being a coach at Texas Tech, being Patrick Mahomes, another name. How about that? Patrick Mahomes was there when Eric Morris was there. He was technically his OC, but Cliff Kingsbury was calling the plays very early in Eric Morris's career. So wherever he goes, he's around great quarterbacks. I wonder what the constant is there. And the final box to tick of what you would be looking for your next Baylor football coach is someone who wants to be here. I'm actually okay if they went and got someone who used this as a stepping stone, because then you'd have to be pretty good, right? If it was going to be a stepping stone, you'd have to be pretty good. But ultimately, you are looking for someone who would make this a destination job. I have it from a very good source, very close to this situation, that Eric Morris was excited at the prospect of taking the Baylor job. Like within the last few weeks. As in, if that job's available, I want that thing. And Baylor is deciding to run it back instead. And what would be so endlessly infuriating is if they do end up hiring Jared Mosley, the AD at UNT. That in and of itself is not frustrating, because I would take him in a heartbeat. I think Jeremiah Dickey's probably your number 1 name. I'd say Mosley's probably your number 2 name, not Matt. Although that would be interesting. Jared Mosley, I think, would be your number 2 name if you're doing a short list for ADs right now. And so, if you didn't announce 2 weeks before the end of the season that you were sticking with your coach next year, you could have gone out and gotten AD and said, that's perfect. How about that football coach comes with you Would that be okay? Maybe the quarterback too? Instead, he's going within your conference and going to be battling you for the same recruits and for the same conference championship. And you're going to be playing them most years. That is a humongous fumble. That is an Ernest Biner level fumble by the Baylor administration. Because that was another guy, by the way, by evidence, by the fact that he's taking the Oklahoma State job. You could throw that dumb, stupid excuse of, oh, there's too many big jobs open. Eric Morris was not going to Florida. He was not going to Penn State. And he was not going to Auburn. If you put us one-on-one against Oklahoma State for Eric Morris, like, are you not liking our odds there? Do you not think you're a better job than Oklahoma State? Now, I know you can't bank on the fact that you could get an AD and he's automatically going to bring his coach. Like, you can't just make that decision now. But you could have waited until the end of the regular season like everybody else does, and you might have had a shot. You hire an AD right before the end of the season, and then you bring the coach with him. Oh, but Cam, Oklahoma State just hired him, and it's not the end of the regular season. I know, mainly because his agent's probably telling him this is the time to take it because Baylor's not getting open. And you lost. You lost again. This one is the one that really bugs me. It's right up my craw because you're going to be facing him a lot. And that could have been you. Instead, you let him slip to another school that is in your conference and is battling for the same kind of recruits as you are. That sucks. That sucks. And not for nothing, I think he's a really good coach. He's a program builder. He's going to a school that hasn't won a Big 12 game in 2 years since they booked a ticket to the Big 12 championship. Yeah, their last Big 12 win was against Oklahoma. They're not even in the conference anymore. And that's where Eric Morris chose to go. Would have gone to Baylor. But you decided with 2 weeks left in the regular season, we're going to stick with our 36-36 head coach. That just leads us down the path to nowhere. So that's frustrating because that would have been my pick. Yeah, I take a guy who worked with Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield and Cam Ward and, oh yeah, John Mateer. Him too. Instead, we're just going to run it back with Dave Aranda.